And what I'd like to do is just talk about what we discussed last week, which was we began the topic on trigonometric functions. Trigonometric functions. Let's just jump right into it. I have a great deal to talk about. All right, so what we talked about last week, sort of a recap. What we talked about last week was trigonometric ratios. We talked about the acronym SOHCAHTOA, or the expression SOHCAHTOA. And what SOHCAHTOA helps you remember is SOH, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. CAH, CAH, which will help you remember that cosine is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then the tangent, TOA, T-O-A, that's to help you remember that the tangent of an angle is equal to its opposite leg over its adjacent leg. So we talked about that last week. And also what we talked about last week is how do I identify these legs, opposite? How do you know what's an opposite? How do you know what's an adjacent? How do you know it's a hypotenuse? Well, we talked about that. One of the things we really emphasized is that opposite, the phrase or expression opposite, is based on whichever angle you're talking about. So the opposite of this angle is this leg. The adjacent, again, opposite means across from. This leg is across from this angle. This leg is opposite of this angle. We talked about last week. We talked about last week using the word opposite in a sentence. If someone is sitting across this desk right here, they are sitting opposite. They are sitting on the opposite side of the table, meaning that they are directly across from me. Okay? If someone were sitting looking at you, if someone were sitting right here looking at you, sitting next to me, I would say that that person is adjacent to me, which means that they are right next to me. All right? Now, if I were to turn this way and they were to look at me, they would now be opposite. We would now be opposite. So opposites are across from each other. Adjacents are next to each other. All right, so let's keep, and a hypotenuse is always across from a 90. So let's keep all this is review. We talked about this last week. All right, so the opposite to this Greek letter called theta is this leg. Across from this angle is this leg. The opposite of this angle is this side right here. The adjacent to this angle is this side right here. The hypotenuse of this triangle, which is across from the 90, is this leg right here. So it's very important that you're able to identify opposite legs, adjacent legs, and a hypotenuse. And every leg that you identify is in reference to a specific angle. Here's an angle here. Opposite to this angle is this side. Opposite to this angle is this side. Adjacent to this angle or next to this angle is this side. This, you would not call this the adjacent leg, even though it's next to this angle, because we've told you that anything across from the 90 we call hypotenuse. Anything across from the 90 is hypotenuse. So hopefully that's not confusing. This side could be the opposite. This side is the opposite of this angle, but this side is the adjacent of this angle. Hopefully you're okay with what I'm saying. All right, so let's just get practice identifying opposite legs, adjacent legs, and hypotenuses. All right, so this, if you focus on this angle, the side opposite this angle is right here. Across from this angle is this side right here. This side we call, it's opposite the 90-degree angle. This we'd call the hypotenuse of the triangle. And this side right here is next to this angle. We call this side the adjacent of this angle. All right, so everything I identify is in reference to an angle. So if you focus on this angle, this is a hypotenuse of the triangle. This side is next to this angle. We call that the adjacent side. And this side here is opposite or across from this angle here. We said last week, if this angle had eyes, if this angle at I, it'd be looking directly opposite this angle right here. I don't know if that's confusing. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I'm just trying to make things as clear as I can. Notice how all of these triangles have right angles. None of what we talk about today is true unless we're working with right triangles. Let's keep going. Let's do one more example where we identified opposite side, an adjacent side, and a hypotenuse. If you focus on this angle here, alpha, the opposite of this angle is right here, this side right here. The adjacent of this angle is this side right here, next to the side next to this angle is right here. And this we would call the hypotenuse. Hopefully you are okay with what I'm saying. This is not a waste of time. Everything we're doing is very important. Is very important in being successful and being able to work with these trigonometric ratios.